And that's a radical change. He says that change, that evolutionary change, is just as great as the moment of creation itself. The moment of evolution to what we are is just that great. But he says, and he shows the principles of it and the details of it, that anything that I have forces me to be related to the entire universe. Okay? Not just the world, not just the family of people, but the universe, the entire universe. You know how big it is? I mean, that universe out there, we're now talking 10 billion galaxies that we know of. You know what 1 billion is? 1 billion is the number of minutes that have transpired since the time Jesus walked the earth. That's 1 billion minutes. And we're talking 10 billion galaxies. If you just started to write down the name of them, you'd never get done in your lifetime. You know, that's huge. And every one of those galaxies likely has stars in the trillions. You know, it's overwhelming. I'm related to all of that. It's part of me and part of them. We're all together. We're in this together. And we're all part of it. But that principle being understood a little bit and kind of getting to play with it and get the feel of it, then what I am also had to be in the beginning of the earliest first bits of creation. I have got spirit, I've got consciousness. There has to be the shadow and the aspect of it in its very beginnings. Now, granted, in that beginning, you're going to find it minutely expressed in one sense, but you're going to see the proof of it. And the proof of it is that one of the things that is big about us, hey, we want to be united. And we don't like it when we're not united. You know, it's not accidental that after all that crash of the First and Second World War that we finally got around to uniting enough to have a common government a little bit of things around the earth in common. We're getting more and more political and economical and other such things that are coming together. Because why? Because we got a drive inside of us to be united. Now, you may not want to be united to a lot of things and a lot of people. That's really true. But if I take all your unification thing away, you're going to be a mess and miserable. Because it's deep in your being to be united. Well, so Chardin looked at this thing and said, well, let's see, you're united. Well, let's see, but how's that work? Well, he saw then that what you have, a coming together of the particles of creation that would over billions of years result in the atomic chart of what we call the 72 basic minerals and things of the earth. And that all comes out of uniting things. And if you know a little bit about that science, hydrogen lives at the base of everything. And I know quite a lot about that bit of it. And it's really amazing how much transmutation goes on in daily living and you don't know it. Cold fusion and cold fission. And you say, that sounds like alchemy. Yeah, they were on the right track. They didn't quite know what they were picking on, and they also tried to do it without telling everybody because they thought they were all crazy. Well, anyway, but the truth of the matter is, that business of beginning to understand that quality of uniting in all things gives us a base to work on the inside of better science, on the inside of understanding why we got to pay attention. I don't want to harp on this too much, but I want to talk to you just briefly about a movie I really liked called Concussion. And if any of you see it, Concussion? Yeah, we got a few. I think Will Smith gave the best performance he has ever given in a movie.
He did.
Boy, he was good in that movie. And the story is, of course, all about football having trouble with their heads getting busted so much that they go crazy. Literally. And so the story is, on the outside, the NFL and their doctors were doing nothing but looking at the outside and really fought the guy who was looking at the inside. There was far more things to look at and to get down on the inside of what was really going on. Why did Iron Mike go crazy when he died? You know, he was a good, solid human being right on the track, and yet he wound up being crazy in a balloon when he died. And so it took inside effort, inside push to say there was more there than meets the eye. And that's what that doctor kept saying. That's what Will Smith's character was. He was looking, he just knew. See, he knew. That's more on intuitive, inside sense of things again. That there had to be something more. And he wouldn't let go. So he paid $20,000 on the outside for the test he needed to take to find out what was really going on. And he got the job done. The problem is the NFL is still looking at the outside. Because all they're looking at is concussion. And they're not looking at bumps on the head. But bumps on the head is what the real problem is. And how in the world we're going to have a football game without bumps on the head, I don't know. But we are on the inside and the outside. Now we're going to have discussions on the inside about that. We had a good bit started with concussion. That was a good process to begin. But there's a lot more to go. And that's inside. Inside, outside push. I'm going to pause for a moment, just in case I've left a couple questions.
You talked about Teilhard and his emphasis on seeing. And then you just said there's more to it than meets the eye.
That's right.
You're saying that his seeing...
The eye is what, the more, when you say that, when I say that seeing is more than meets the eye, and he says that it's more than what I physically see. Look, I look at you folks, and what do I see? There's a man, there's a woman, there's somebody without too much hair, and there's somebody with colored hair over here. I see these things. Okay, but now I start looking around, I start wondering about the inside. What in your background that triggers your thinking and your feeling brought you here today? Should I become interested in that? That's on the inside. And that's seen on the inside. Now I stopped reading, so let me just read just a little bit more what he says seeing really gets into when you understand it. He says, man, the center of perspective, is at the same time the center of construction of the universe. And you can't really talk about the correct construction of the universe if you're not going to see on the inside. Want an example? Good grief. Look at the coal industry and other such things that we let them rape the land until we finally figured out they didn't have to do that. And then we stopped them doing it. And now they put it back together, and guess what? It works. Instead of seeing just on the outside how we make money out of this thing, fix it. Do something else with it. Take it to another step. That's the seeing on the inside. So in the seeing on the inside, he says you got to have a new set of senses. He lists a few senses. He says you have to have a sense of spatial immensity. If you're going to see on the inside, you've got to have a sense of this universe that you're a part of, and you matter to this. See, this is another part of the picture. Oh, I got these distractions I get into. You'll probably hear them more than once, but anyway, one of the distractions is that matter, earth, dirt, and all that stuff, and life, from bacteria to all the way up to mammals and primates, they're on the ride for evolution. They're on the train, and they're riding along. And they just, things get done, and they keep riding along. And they change, and they develop into something new, and it's keep riding along. Whew. When we hit self-reflective, we are no longer on the train unless we choose to be, and unless we give cooperation and collegial unity to the next stage of evolution. It's not going to happen without our consciousness being contributed. Your consciousness matters. I wish I could remember the name of a movie. Had Morgan Freeman in it, and it was about this little boy that grew up and then in South Africa.
The power of one.
The
power of one.
The power of one. Thank you. That movie, The Power of One, is excellent for showing you what one person can do in the matter of changing a society. And if you don't believe that, I just saw a movie on Mandela. Oh, that latest one they did is a really good one. The others were good too, but my goodness, think about that guy's change. I had the occasion to talk to a man from South Africa the other day, and I asked him, I said, how goes it since Mandela has dropped off the scene and not alive and not there? He said, it's going a downer. We're dissipating. One man can make a huge person difference. So, now, let me continue with seeing then. You got to have a sense of spatial immensity. I also think the opposite is true. You got to have a sense of fractal tininess. Because the universe of infinity this way is just as much in the small going down. And the study of fractals is really interesting in looking at the small. And what's that big cyclotron they're doing out there in Switzerland and doing? It's looking at smaller and smaller parts all the time. And it just keeps going. So that is also a sense you need to have. Then a sense of depth. You look at depth at things. And when you look at depth, you're going to be forced to look into the inside of the whole meaning of a situation, not just the surface. You have to, if you don't look at being wealthy and you don't look at depth, boy, what a joke you can become in terms of being good for humanity in a hurry. But if you got depth, then you start looking around and saying, wow, look at this guy's doing. A sense of number. And to see, you got to have a sense of number because it takes huge numbers for each of these evolutionary things to occur, and you got to have a sense of numbers, discovering and grasping unflinchingly the bewildering multitude of material or living elements involved in the slightest change in the universe. So all of a sudden, I said, you're important. We also got to have numbers that are helping to make that change, gathering and collecting. A sense of proportion, a sense of quality or novelty, a sense of movement, a sense, lastly, of the organic. When you finally get to the sense of the organic, wow, then you begin to see that this business of consciousness is an organic cosmo-consciousness. It's not just a matter kind of evolution, and it's not just a life thing. It's really gets into the consciousness, complexity of consciousness that sets forth the next stage of evolution. I had a question back first.
I am enjoying your thoughts here, and I want to focus on the collision between science and religion.
Okay.
I was a fourth grade teacher, and in the textbook it speaks of the ages of the rocks and the earth and all of this, which created a problem with some parents who were wanting their children to know that the 4,000 and 5,000 years.
Yeah,
and I came up with 4 words with the guidance of someone: the who and the how, the who and wait a minute, the what. Now I'm all confused. I got my 4 words. The who and the why are the religious aspects of it, and the how and the when are the scientific. And
That's a good description to sort that out like that, and that's often what happens. The religious things had these things on the inside, and the science had the outside. Now let me diverge a little bit to try to answer how that problem is exacerbated and therefore give an indication of what has to happen to fix it. When the scientists lost when they never did develop asking all the insides questions, I have an example of that. It's a little simple one, but everybody knows what the Manhattan Project was, right? Okay, that's where they went up there and then locked those guys in Los Alamos and said, figure out this atomic energy business. 7 guys, and all those numbers, and man, that was a huge community of people, knew what was really going on. That was all. They were all working in their compartmentalized processes and everything else, doing their best they could. And so they proceeded. And they did get a lot of good things going. They got a lot of things done. However, when they set the bomb off at
White Sands?
Hiroshima, when they set off the bomb, they didn't say too much to them here at Trinity site in New Mexico. Didn't say too much about that. But when they set off the bomb at Hiroshima, they called all the community together into the auditorium. They told them what they'd done. They told them what their science had done and what they had done with that science. Guys got sick and started throwing up. People absolutely did not know the inside part of the story. And when they got the results and saw the inside, they were absolutely heart-struck and really hurt them deeply. That's what happens when you separate them. Now, so science, in its process, in the last 50 years or so, is beginning to look at the inside and the outside of things. There really are some hopeful signs on that. I can give you all kinds of examples of things where you must get to this. It has got to happen. Eugenics. Got to talk about the inside of that possibility. We even got to talk about it in terms of playing around with corn. Because what it's doing, when they start playing with our food and changing things and we don't know it, we're getting some really bad results. And they didn't ever talk about that. All they talked about was, well, let's make more corn to raise more cows. You know, if you feed that corn from Iowa to those cows and exclusively, it kills them. You know, I mean, we got to talk about the inside of that thing, see? Now, religion. Here's the problem with religion. Religion, by and large, lost, and this is certainly talking about Christian. I think it's probably further out than that, but I can certainly speak for my field, the Christian side, lost its footing on the earth. What did they say? That holiness was found by detaching and tossing everything of matter off of you. Wait a minute. Chardin says, that's holy. Matter is holy. Oh, that means sex is holy too. Oh, that means all kinds of questions that aren't looked at right. And we say, you're going to be holy by fasting, or you're going to be holy by shedding all these habits you've gotten. No, Chardin says you're going to be holy when you get into it properly. But they didn't have their feet on the ground. So they were like a cloud in the sky. And the wind could blow them around really easy. They didn't have their substance, and they've lost their influence in a whole lot of life over that. A lot of people that, because of that. Where Chardin says, keep the two together. They are aspects of the same thing. The inside and the outside are the aspects of the same thing. They are not ever separated. I've never seen anybody, I've never read anything that constantly Chardin does is destroy dualism. Boy, and I don't think he never mentioned the word dualism. I don't know if he ever had a mental concept said, oh, anything dualistic, I'm going to get rid of that. No, he just, every time he saw dualism, he saw its problems and how it created a lot of trouble. And he's always constantly saying, never one or the other, it's to combine together. And so what does that mean? Well, I can tell you one thing, that as a preacher of the gospel, that means I have to do some rethinking about how I encourage people to grow and develop. And I've got to quit talking about a God above, and I got to start talking about a God ahead. Because the God ahead is rooted right in this earth in motion. And I got to put those two concepts together if I'm going to be good at what I should be doing in my background. Yes.
I am a physician,
And to me, it's always been baffling that people in positions of all specialty or generality don't seem to be as convinced of what Chardin was trying to talk about, because for me it's impossible to not see the blending of the outside and the inside. And within medicine, even today, as you said, things are coming together in some ways, and one of the areas is the termination of life, the end of life, where they are now bringing people, or even in cancer centers, they're bringing people that are spiritual advisors, along with those of many other specialty areas, not just the oncologists who sometimes have become very linear in their science.
Okay, so the question then is about the relationship even coming from physicians changing about outside, inside together. I'll give you a couple examples that certainly in what you're talking about in terms of looking that health is much more than a bottle of pills. You know, because that's where a lot of doctors have got to do, is be in arms of the pharmaceutical community, and their lack of insight to the inside is atrocious. And a lot of times, because it's all about getting the money out and these things and so on and so forth. Now, the other side of that health factor is it makes a whole lot of difference what's going on. We're getting information now. I saw an article just this week on an idea of things that can change your DNA. So we're now looking at DNA as a living fabric, organic, and you can change it in lots of ways. How do you change it? Well, I knew a long time ago, by the way. I figured out a long time ago a virus can change your DNA. And that could be permanent down the line the next one, because of something the virus did to it. Okay, but there's other things that change the DNA. And guess what some of the things they listed? Color, sound, meditation, which are really interesting, that they're talking about. Oh, I want to think about that. Well, you stop and you think about that. And I can tell you that I grew up in a little town in western Colorado, and the physicians there were much different than what I began to see was when I was in seminary at Denver. What difference was, those guys were whole. They, first of all, didn't have hospitals, so they came to my house when I got sick. And they never just thought about, find out what your symptoms were. They'd poke and touch you and find out, and pretty soon they'd get a sense of something. And pretty soon they might have a whole lot of things you did that didn't really, that were involved all of that other stuff, and made you a lot better doctor. I can tell you I know of, and I didn't get a chance to document it real close, but and I've had the privilege of being in an operating room to watch neurosurgery on the brain, and so I was interested when I saw the article, or this comment. This neurosurgeon found out that people that are doing various kinds of energy work for health, all without ever touching somebody, and when you get done with one of these people, you feel like you had a whole body massage. I guarantee you. Well, he found out that if he let his patients, who would be willing to let them work with that as they came to see him, and then he brought them into the operating room to be there when he was operating, and then he followed up in healthcare, follow on. He found out these guys had a lot less trauma, had a lot easier operation itself, went a lot better. All kinds of things, and so he's in a direct war with the boys at the outside looking in, and not the inside. And so what's he do? He says, "Well, I'm just experimenting. I'm just trying this out." He's not. He knows what it's doing, and he's inviting it, but he can't say what he's doing quite. And so yes, and I'm a practitioner of many of those kind of things that are in between. And boy, I can talk for another week about that, so we won't do that today. But yes, is shifting and it is changing. And yes, there is hope. I met a doctor one time when I came out, and by this time, this is like 25 years ago, I was already becoming very conscious of what my health and food were all about. And so I was already looking at a lot of this stuff, and nutrition and so on and so forth. So I met this guy who was just out of school, just got his residency done, and was coming into practice in our little community, and I went on a hike with him, and I said, hey, I'd like to form a team with you. I think I could be some help with you to establish a good practice. How's that? Let's talk about nutrition. Let's talk about food. Let's talk about use of it for health. He didn't have course one about it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I knew more than he did. That's changing. That's really changing. Question.
You mentioned the future of human evolution. Do you think we're heading for cosmic consciousness?
Yes, absolutely. The future, and that's been one of the things, and one of the later programs, I'll get into a very intense look at the question of the future of humankind. See, what Teilhard did was, as he looked back, he developed very clear descriptions of the mechanisms of the changes that evolution goes through. He then took these mechanisms and applied the same mechanisms looking to the future. Boy, does he give a future look at things that is nothing like what you get from the people that are all worried about us ceasing to be by ourselves. In this article I was going to look at here, we got into the problem, got into the issue of the time clock that they keep about how long the Earth has got before we lose it all. And this has been going on since 1947. They've been keeping this clock, and they use current events and things that we're at, how soon we're going to annihilate each other, and we're not going to be around anymore. They say we're in 3 minutes to 12. You know, they've got it down to where we're only 3 minutes left to live, which got to expand out a little bit because it's a clock that, but anyway. Now Chardin just laughs at that. Teilhard says, you know, the future of humankind evolving is going to be in this constant consciousness complexification, and then it's going to get, at that point, I'm going to have, will be next week's topic, will lay that in a little bit better, because I got to really talk about spirit in detail at that point, to really look at what that's going to be. So I have to look at what is spirit in Teilhard's definition, because he uses it in so many ways that it kind of drove my wife Barbara crazy, because she had a very clear understanding of spirit that he kept bouncing all his ball for her. I'd be reading the book and say, I don't agree with that. Oh, okay. So we've had to try to figure out what he was saying, and we'll get into that. But yes, the future is extraordinarily bright, and he said that evolution can never be stopped or interfered with. It will come. And he said, I don't know if, he said, you know, human beings are really young. This is an evolutionary model. We're really young. He said, maybe it's going to take another 1,000,000 years. I mean, he didn't mince a word about that. He meant what he said. Yeah, I can't tell you how long that's going to be. He said, we're kind of young. Questions? Any others? Yes.
I'm confused. And in fact, I'm so confused, I'm thinking not to return.
Okay.
Because I see what we're aiming at, try to put it down in a layman's language, is to increase our sensitivity the world around us, all things that make up this world, and that we ought to have, and I'm being facetious, we ought to have an Adolf Hitler Day. There was one man that changed the world. He
Okay,
made it.
now I want to interrupt just a little bit. First of all, Teilhard really appreciated your disturbance. I mean, he constantly talked about what the insights were doing. And he didn't talk about just the insights of what he was saying that was causing the thinking to get warped and kind of hard to figure out. He was talking about just the fact that we're now conscious of each other across the globe in a new way. That's disturbing. We never used to care when I was a youngin' about what they were doing to each other in the Mideast. Now we are, and it aches on us. It wears us down sometimes. So, that's true. Now, to the part where you get this confused in this whole thing with Teilhard, I offer you my condolences, and I'm sorry. I don't know any way around it. And I'll tell you how I got out of it. Read him. And get enough reading done with him that you're looking at his progression of his mind thinking also. That takes a commitment of some time. That takes some energy. I find now that when I read him, I can understand these large sentences that go on forever a whole lot better. I know what he's saying. I have a sense, an intuitive sense of flowing with him. I didn't do that at first, and I struggled. And I had to set him down at times until I could catch up a little bit. What I've given you are some helps to get there a little quicker than I did, by knowing which books to look at and which products to read. And then the other thing is, let's talk about it. Because it takes the conversations to begin to sort that out sometimes. And so I think we have to do that. And I can't take away all of the discomfort. And I don't. And if it gets to the point that you don't come back, I'm okay. I would say, well, I'm glad you came when you did, see. And I'm going to be, we all got to let people be what they need to be at a given time. Look, Barbara asked me if I had a picture of me when I was a little boy. Well, I don't have any pictures of that. She wanted to make a point that what you saw then, what you see now, doesn't look too much like that. If they do it, it doesn't. But we're on a journey. My journey in my life. It's been real, and boy, I can talk to you about it in detail. Well, okay, so is yours. And so we have to be respectful of that, and then take what is necessary. I'll get down the road someplace along the way and talk about what I think Teilhard is really urging us forward into. That's going to be down the road. I got to get some more base laid in first, so I can't ally all of that just yet. I hope that helps. I had a question right over here someplace.
Thanks. I read Chardin early in college, and he had a lot of interesting insights for me at that point in time, but not enough for me to use him, and I passed by him to other things. My question, though, is I ran across a couple things in the chronological list of his works, and I'd like you to say a little bit on two of them. One of them was written in 1918 called The Eternal Feminine.
Yes.
And the second one was written in 1926 called The Basis and Foundation of the Idea. I'm sorry, wrong one.
Okay. Let me take on in term feminine while you find the second one.
That's another one on feminine. I'll find it. Go
Okay,
ahead.
when you find it, on the eternal feminine, what he's talking about there, he's using that as a term to reach the universal concept, and that really is the spirit.
Now, what should we think of transfer,
the whole issue, that issue there.
That's not feminism, basically, that's trans something else.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, and I'm not sure I can say it just as easy as without one of the words, but I know what you're talking about. That discussion came out of Darwin, following Darwin. In other words, trying to figure out how they could preserve a little bit of faith and religion. Transformism became the one discussion that, but basically, when you get through where we are today, that discussion isn't had very much because we now see it, we now see more And he talks about some of the problems that were there that came from that.
Okay, could you go back to the feminism again?
Okay, in feminism, Chardin, first of all, let me give you a little bit of his life. Chardin, all through his life, had a very fine, deep connection to the feminine, or to the reality of women in society. That was in his family, to begin with. They were 11 children, and a mother that was, I don't remember how many boys were out of that group. It was somewhat mixed up. And then he had a sister in that group he was really close to, and then he had a cousin he was really close to, both women. And as he went through life, he always had women around him. They liked him, and he liked women. He was okay with that. He found that he needed them. He needed their kind of thinking. He needed their kind of analysis at times. He really welcomed them into his life. He had a couple of them want to marry him, for sure. And he just said, no, that's not my bag. It's not where I'm going. I'm going to stay where I am. I'm in this priesthood, and it's going to be celibate, and period. And he was firm about that. But he never, ever didn't have, he always had, put it in the positive, he always had a sense of value of women in his life, of their kind of thinking, and their kind of what they brought to the picture. And he welcomed it, and he encouraged it. Now, out of that sense there, he rose it up to a universal level of talking about the spirit as feminine.
But this particular one has to do with written in the time of war. And
Yes.
I'm interested in that component of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when he was very, see, as I said earlier, every major topic that he gets into had its seedling in the wartime. And so yes, he saw the value of woman in that war. But he raised it up to the universal concept as spirit, as feminine. By the way, language-wise, that's pretty solid, because it turns out that the major scripture words for spirit are feminine. And Barbara and I don't talk about the Holy Spirit he. We don't do that. It's Holy Spirit she. Because that aspect of God is absolutely critical to the fullness of understanding. I'm going to cut off to one little thing here. Barbara translated the Psalms from the Hebrew for her doctorate thesis. So she knows a good bit about all this. In Psalm 22, verse 10, she ran across something really strange. It says in very simple language, you, El, which is referring back to divinity, are my mother. Period. We have inspected 30 or more translations, and nobody has ever said that in a translation. And yet the Hebrew is so absolutely clear, it's phenomenal. What's going on in that? A bunch of hooey that men have held women in second-class relationships with themselves for about at least 10,000 years I can think of, and all of the harm it's done. And Teilhard didn't have that problem. And he didn't know that. No one showed him that translation in Hebrew that I know of. That's your contribution. Teilhard said, it's not enough for you to see and move, what I'm saying, talking about. You've got to go beyond and see more, and keep adding to me and building on what I'm saying. So his thing of the feminine is elevated to the universal very quickly in terms of spirit. But he's very, very clear. He's very adamant about it. And he lived that way.
Lots of interesting ideas. One that comes to me in the context of evolution is the evolution of evil.
Okay, now that's another topic I'll spend a couple hours on.
Oh, it's not a simple one-word answer.
No, but he really does answer it. And I've had to really think this thing around a few times to try to get to it. You'll find it in this word here. the diminishing of things. And then but you're gonna not ever understand the problem of evil until you add the spirit side of it, which then is called redemption. And that I'll have to get into at length in time. That's a teaser for a reason to come back, because that'll be a good one. Okay, now let me do this. We've covered a lot of ground. Turn my camera off for a minute. I think that's going to be enough for one session on that camera. Well, I don't know about the good stuff, but I'm going to relax just a little bit, and I'm going to first of all, I'm really today for staying and working, and I really appreciate it. I was always scared, but still think about this, and I couldn't let go of it because I'm in life. I don't care about it in my life, and I about I get it. So I read. I was up down in Mall, it was a campaign 5 years. I got them side of me right the whole frame. And got a job, because I got everything. I actually hired by after long periods of things happened. I was being high up Tuesday, go around talk to all the senior sickle PMs or something in order to up a look of how to help that better. So I'm kind of just like that way. I get what I do. I've never had anything higher my juice to I mean, so when I stopped doing things, very necessary, because I know I'm going to get it done. I really and I appreciate and I question you. You're going to have a class. You do okay, and you come on back, right? But I don't have to see I was going to be a trouble. Sight and diet this spirit with her because it's really critical to understand. And I'll get into several factors I put avoid today. Because I want to give some tense week. My next subjects that are determined. So the question is the issue of human evolution and about issues right now get into and I want to talk a lot of these were the nuclear conscious evolution, the convolution on the few, and I'm not sure what it will come, but every count, you know, use that in their own media and stuff, some really bad. And you know, let that work out. Little to know that the specific referring to the urgent concept they got a better hand on that. This is the convolution. I bet no. Huh? I bet they don't. Bet they do. They don't know. You know, tell you what I really do. I read an article that's terrible, and it was led to his cousin, and he wrote an article there that they had that and I knew at the same time. They couldn't have an article either as ideas or but they did that. First of all, he didn't get out very good. And that's about my turn. I read today. That's on today. People that we a little bit hard and they get up here and really into some things that and what we want to check good are living the age of metaphysical kind of thinking. And so I have to talk to them and each of you really. That's if you got to talk to your challenge. I don't think you get into art, really hang here with me. I'll be honest about your thing. Happen by what you do with it. I know what's doing it, man. There aren't any of you know them. There are a couple, not too many. And I'm telling you, then inside of my and then title this, I didn't know the other ones I'm going. It's okay. It's okay to that's what it's like. But I'm going to go on. You have to decide. You're going to go. And if you says it out, you're going to die. I think that's the easiest thing we're using. So that's the thing. I can help you. See how to do a bunch of teachers are back a little, sitting a lot of them. That means too. I was in high school a lot of years ago. I would go to room with teachers, and there was a bunch of them. They were out pushing everybody about things like this. And what I did, I've been doing it all my life. I'm not surprised late in my life and how much it's causing a lift in my age. So I'm not inviting you to try to do mentor and on the road, don't show me. A good time. So I really consider it to be a big beginning. I wanted to teach you evolutionary things. I didn't really fight. I didn't get into it. I don't think fight there's any intention. You understand. And there was a thing they did, and I remember he's probably between guys. One guy was good in scripture. Religion, I was really good in this and the two guys. There were 5,000 people watching the program. And then they had rock control. That is, I mean, it's up to religion. The Bible. How much would happen to pulse? I can people know what I mean. I mean, to the like and so these people I see that's in front of hand to have a place. And so I've had it before. What is that deal? I thought think, well, it's the thing, you know, it's, and we need, time them it's hard to do a scene. They have that, they have somebody on the showing to help us work. We're in trouble, and we are, as a nation, in okay. I don't, that's anything to test. I think it's to be good about, and to sit our hands together, and get right on it. And if we don't, we do it on the pay side. Complicated. And so, not that the door one's up if we watch ourselves. Gary, you know, just, it's a new thing.
Working with Teilhard on any use, and what expensive taught me was that you need to know his whole picture. You need to give him as a whole, one per journey whole.
That's a good way to do it.
It connects with other actors.
Yeah.
In life. And there are no people here in this room who are within other communities.
Right.
Where it's part of it. It's a community center, community. But it's something you, I'm so sure, I mean, know what you're saying.
No, I understand that. For instance, one of the things for me, I'll give you a more about me. One of for me, how much for me, I've been trying to do with it. But I'm saying, well, that's why I was saying that, or what I was trying to do. One thing. The thing really for me is I am being at whatever. I'm not young and serious. And I know I'm asked questions and asked. I know things. Like, for instance, and I listened about LOG, was extensive and I'm very good. I've been several tools that I told you, and I do it. It's really to see that I can not beyond adding what was. I would be thrilled to see. Here's how we're going to do this. I've got some, and I read because that is this thing also. I would like to know that there's not even an answer. So there, but if she's going, I've read my about that. Chardonnay's read it out there. That's been great because he has the end of conversation. This one reason, but stopping on stuff, talk with him as good at that. Well, that's taken out of absorb thing. But so it's so to read, and I see something that's inviting that, or I'm at the heated. I'm going to be straight forward to deal with going on school. Yeah, I do that. I want to still be part of it. But yeah, I think our dad going for really. I don't need any part of it quick fast. And but see what you're doing very good. That's what you keep at him. The more you stand, the more you do it. I'm saying, goodness, affect area. I know that was that come the first I read. That did all. It did a little one when it got when I really saw the issue of the speaking part of this matter. Oh, when I the whole change of language. I don't call it love. Well, I love it because I adore it. I couldn't do it for it. See, that little tip for me. That's a big old still soul emotion. But it's just our bags of things, plain the root.
Yes, because there's, I will put together, make a fart word, to be the residents of Tennessee, the coast.
It's really Indian. We're going to start to, did you like your Sarber Street yesterday? No, that'll have to have a guess to do that.
No.
To prove this.
No, I'm in a very elementary level, keeps knows.
She can talk to people about really angry words and things that they actually do is angry because he used the words. And you don't have to stand in one class is very intellectual and lives that bill. And his first action I told it Shannon, he said, well, Hamlet, he's not very scientist. He was a good scientist. Well, I think good was he's so poet. He's also been in his knowledge that he doesn't have kind of scientific that by saying that you see science. And it took a while to get his mind a little bit. And as I met a friend in the scene, we're beginning some new conversations about special. Oh, but you need to know a little bit. If we move here to the picture, if it goes on, so I've got in church, Zephyr Mountain given out by the same availability. Is that it? That's not that. I could this was the same next we're doing 37, 9:37 this week here. What does anybody have any sort of time for me? I can either. And is that better? Better. So good. So I have this church to sit out there. You know, I can tell I want to. I can also do the same. Need these 3 weeks later, 3 weeks out here. And get so that I can keep it up there. Which I do. I wanted to be that difficult. Got to drive all the. No, I do it also. That's the deal. Don't try. Oh, well, I like these. They also have each Wednesday. Then also Wednesday. Oh, we moved one thing. Moved to the fall thing. Monday. No part of this thing. Okay, well, that's Tuesday. Good point. I'm very grateful to seniors that advertise Tuesday. We will limit in our ACN. We will not limit in the fun time. got to, well, don't hesitate to feel, I'm sure that encouraging and tell you guys to come back and I just see again. I told you, I said, oh, a second, might fall off. You know, I tell you, man, for it. He didn't have just from hockey and it can be for nothing. He jumped deep as Dindell. That's it, right. You get great play, dude. That's where I'm lost at, man. That's some good stuff. Okay, thank you.
Oh, a goosebump.